Boom! Texas adds another commitment this weekend, making it the second one. Jake Collett, kicker out of Ringgold, Georgia, Heritage High School, commits to Texas just moments ago. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jeff Howe here at On Texas Football. Jerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel are actually out at the Austin airport right now interviewing players as they leave from their official visits to Austin. Thus far, 2 commitments on the day. The latest, or excuse me, on the weekend. The latest from Jake Collett, the kicker that we just talked about. Dylan Berryman, defensive lineman out of Monroe's Ouachita High School up in Monroe, Louisiana, committed late last night. We already had that video and talked at length about him. But today, Jake Collett, kicker. Jeff, this brings Texas to 10 commitments, long of 56 yards in his career, I believe, from Jake Collett. 8 of 14 overall, but performed really well at national kicking camps, especially one where Jeff Banks, the Texas special teams coordinator, was at. What do you make of this? Texas going after a high school kicker when, frankly, they added a portal kicker this year. They added a portal punter. It looks like they're trying to reconfigure the roster where they don't have to rely on the portal as much. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I asked Jeff Banks about this a couple years ago, Bobby, because it used to be, if you think about Texas, really up until you hit that run of like Hunter Lawrence, Justin Tucker, until you got to that run, they had done a really good job of getting kickers out of the walk-on program. Dusty Mangum was a walk-on. David Pino was a walk-on. Ryan Bailey was a walk-on. I just think the exposure, Bobby, as crazy as that's going to sound, the exposure that specialists get now, with the ability to go to kicking camps and they can get their video out there, you can't necessarily rely on your walk-on program to find good kickers anymore. I mean, you've got to, if you feel like you've got a guy that can make a difference, even if it's just, hey, he can maybe come in year one, kind of like Will Stone did, he can be a kickoff specialist for us and change games that way with field position, then you do it. I wonder how the adjustment's going to go as scholarship limits continue to increase. But that's the interesting thing for me, Bobby, is number one, just kind of how the dynamics continue to change with finding kickers at the high school level. Number 2, for Texas specifically, I'm kind of with CJ. CJ got me on this line of thinking. I'd just rather make kicker/punter a priority in the portal every year. But I understand also this is a developmental staff at its core. They want to develop guys, and that includes their specialists.
Well, here's the issue, too, that we're watching actually here. Obviously very good on kickoffs. He might be able to take over for Will Stone in that role as a true freshman, and maybe Texas does go to the portal for an actual field goal specialist. We'll have to wait and see. They'll probably want to take a look and see what he does in camp before they make that decision, but he clearly has a strong enough leg to handle the kickoff duties, which at least gives them one piece. Now, we mentioned this being the 10th commitment to Texas, talking about Jake Collett today. Last night, Texas added Dylan Berryman. Jeff, you guys talked at length about him. There could be more coming, and I want to say this without trying to, say, hey, this is how it has to be or what have you. Jerry and CJ are out there at the airport right now. Texas had a really good recruiting weekend, is what our initial reports are. I want to put this up real quick, if y'all don't mind. These are the guys that were in this weekend. All of the players. Let's start with Xavier Crowell, Cohen Brown, the wide receiver, Malachi Lee, big offensive lineman, Lamar Brown, Dylan Berryman, just committed, Jamarian Carlton, Bo Jandrew, Devon Benjamin. Excuse me, I think I may have the wrong thing because Travis Stevenson did not make it in. Hayward Howard was in, Jake Collett, Mikey Bakakis, Trout O'Neal, there we go, and obviously Corey Wells, defensive lineman. Yeah. All of those guys made it in. We have news and notes on all of those guys up on ontexasfootball.com if you want the latest and greatest on all of those guys. Again, we're trying to get you to the nuts and bolts here. But Berryman's commitment also, Jeff, as we talk about this, is a big one because it gives Texas a big presence up front to start that defensive line class. And I think he was imperative to get into the boat this year as well.
Yeah, you can't have a defensive line room full of, 6'1", 6'2", 330-pound type guys. That's just not the way college football is played now. But you need one or two of them. And that's the role Dylan Berryman is, just a guy who can really, really be a menace over the ball. It's going to be really hard to move, can win leverage battles, going to be a linebacker's best friend. So I love him. And just from that standpoint, Bobby, of now you've got the first domino to fall in what's a really, really deep year in terms of what the Texas recruiting board looks like for interior defensive linemen. And they can't take all these guys. And some of these guys, the staff's going to have to make some tough decisions at some point. The recruits are going to have to make some tough decisions. So Dylan Berryman's got his spot. The interesting one for me is some of the stuff, again, CJ and Jerry are gathering intel at the airport right now. But Corey Wells closing in on a decision. It sounds like he's done taking visits, took a midweek visit to Auburn this week. Yeah, it's just coming off his Texas visit. He's already Ole Miss is the other school in the mix there. But Bobby, he's more of a guy that can play multiple shades up front, a longer guy, got a little bit more pop, a little bit more snap, a little more violence off the ball. Can be a guy that can be more of a disruptor, penetrator, as opposed to Dylan Berryman, like I said, who's just going to mainly be over the ball. So I'm really intrigued by where they are with Corey Wells. And then I'll go to the other side of the ball. Jerry reported this. His initial take was he feels like it's a Texas-Michigan battle for Malachi Lee. And we've also talked about that offensive line as one of those positions where, hey, Texas is in a great spot for a lot of guys. They can't take all those guys in this class. So some decisions are going to have to be made pretty soon. So I think the fact that you've already got a couple in the boat with Nicholas Robertson and Max Wright, and now it looks like it could be a Michigan-Texas battle for Malachi Lee. I know that's one, Bobby, we probably hasn't gotten the kind of buzz that maybe it deserves. But the fact that, whether it's Kyle Flood or, Sharon Moore, that Michigan staff, Stacey Searles over at Georgia, the fact that you've got so many coaches that are willing to go out to Hawaii to recruit this kid and make him a priority probably tells you how good of an offensive line prospect he is.
Yeah, I tell you what, we're going to do. This is obviously it started off as a commitment video for Jake Collett, and we talked a little bit about Dylan Berryman. We're also going to talk now about some of these guys that were on campus. We'll also be taking your questions. This is going to be a fairly short live, but we did want to give you guys a recruiting update on Sunday afternoon post-visit, so you got a sense of where things were. Jeff, let's start with this. You mentioned Corey Wells, Jerry Hamilton telling us Texas, Ole Miss, and Auburn are the final three. No more official visits for him. A decision coming soon. Malachi Lee, Texas versus Michigan. Georgia and Bama appear to be on the peripheral at this point in time, according to Jerry. And then according to CJ and Jerry, Texas did very well with Jamarian Carlton, the edge out of the Central Texas area. He had been looking elsewhere, but visiting Texas this weekend, it looks like Texas made some key movement there. Other news and notes: Devon Benjamin out of the West Coast apparently had a really good weekend. We'll see where that leads. Punter Mikey Bukowskis out of Prosper. We're hearing it's going to be a tough battle with Clemson for him. Apparently, Dabo Sweeney really got his claws in that one a little bit. So we'll see where Texas goes. But all in all, Texas making headway with a number of prospects, including Lamar Brown. And this is someone we need to talk about, Jeff. Lamar Brown out of Baton Rouge area in Louisiana was long thought to be headed most likely to LSU or even Texas A&M or maybe another national program. But Texas making him a priority while also saying Alan Clark, the new defensive ends coach at the University of Texas, who came to Texas from Ohio State this offseason, has been really recruiting him. And it sounds like the Longhorns are making some inroads for one of the nation's top prospects overall.
Yeah. Two recruitments that are going to be really fun to watch how they play out are Jalen Lott and Lamar Brown, just because we've seen Texas get to a point in the recruitment where you're recruiting a guy one position. In the case of Lamar Brown, recruiting as an offensive lineman really didn't get anywhere. But Alan Clark, being a Baton Rouge guy, has gotten into that recruitment. Texas likes him as a defensive line. Bobby, when you're recruiting guys that are talented enough to legitimately play on either side of the ball, and you can flip it, midway through a recruitment and still be in a really good spot. You're still in a really good spot for Jalen Lott, but you've made up a lot of ground in that Lamar Brown recruitment. I want to see if Alan Clark can get this thing across the finish line. I also think it helps too, and this was said we got a master thread going on for a weekend visit thread over at ontexasfootball.com. This was said in there, the family ties between like Hayward Howard Jr. and Lamar Brown, there's some family ties there. So there's some familiarity. So I think for those guys to be in on the same weekend, that could go a really long way towards seeing how Texas finishes in this. So, Jerry and I talked about it, Bobby. I don't know if you've got a take on it or not, but Lamar Brown, the more I watch him, really reminds me of, again, a kid from more northern Louisiana. Really reminds me when Jerry Tillery was coming out of Shreveport, probably about 8, 9, 10 years ago, where a lot of people liked him as an offensive lineman, but a lot of people liked him as a defensive lineman too. Notre Dame takes him as a defensive lineman. He ends up leaving that program as a first-round draft pick. So Lamar Brown is a 5-star guy. Does he have that kind of ceiling? I don't know, but I think it says a lot when you can legitimately look at a guy as a left tackle or an interior defensive lineman and see that kind of ceiling for him going forward.
I will say this. He does not move like an offensive lineman. He moves like a defensive lineman. And that was something that was similar with Jerry Tillery as well. And so that's not a bad comparison at all, Jeff. Actually, I think it's a very astute one. The one thing I would add to Lamar Brown, apparently, something we learned over the weekend, his mother and Hayward Howard's mom are long-term friends as well. Yeah. Howard, of course, the cornerback commitment that was in from Edna Carr in the New Orleans area, he was in this weekend as well. So they got to reconnect. So there's a lot of ins and outs going on in recruiting right now. We'll get to y'all's questions in just a second, but the reality of it is it sounds like the visit weekend went exceedingly well. There've already been 2 commitments from the weekend. Corey Wells, the defensive lineman out of Petal, Mississippi. That's a little, I don't want to call it a suburb, but it's just outside of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, if you're familiar with that area. Then also Jamarian Carlton, the edge out of the Central Texas area, also had a really good weekend visit, is what we're being told as well. We'll see where Cohen Brown, Devon Benjamin, the running back Xavier Crowell, and others end up as we see them leave town this week. E. Kim says, are we hearing reports of another commitment from this weekend? Yes, we are, but it's not public yet. So let's just put it that way so that everybody understands. One thing we do not do here at On Texas Football, we don't try to take away someone's moment. So if a young man wants to announce it on Twitter, like Jake Collett did, we actually had that news well beforehand, but he wanted to put it out on Twitter himself. We let him do that, and then we came in here with the news as well. So yes, we have that. That is the case. We will see, though, and I want to say this, E. Kim, just because it's happened doesn't mean we know it's going to necessarily happen today. It may be in the coming days or even a week or so away. So we'll just have to wait. And that's one of the things that we'll monitor as well. But hey, Jeff, I look at it. You and I have talked about this at length, really, as it relates to Texas and recruiting. They also have another big recruiting weekend coming up this coming weekend. Yeah. I mean, this is a nonstop June for them.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Travis Stevenson, who was supposed to come in this weekend, he's not going to come in next weekend. Again, interior defensive line, I think offensive line, and secondary, Bobby. Those are really the 3 positions for me. I know we can get excited about Xavier Crowell and, Cohen Brown. Where does he fit in that mix at receiver? But to me, both lines of scrimmage and the secondary, the need to just constantly be reloading talent there. Like I said, the recruits are going to have some tough decisions to make over the next few weeks, and the staff's going to have some tough decisions to make. So, I kind of like where Texas is sitting right now on the interior D line. You always wonder, hey, who's going to be the first domino to fall, and where is it going to, and how's it going to impact things thereafter? All right, Dylan Berryman was the first one. Now, things seem to be trending in the right direction with Corey Wells coming off this visit. Texas made up a lot of ground with a guy like Kendall Graville in the state of Florida. So hopefully now, Bobby, we start to see things pick up with the interior D line. That's a position where if we talk about kicker, maybe not wanting to have to go to the portal, I can guarantee you Sark and Kenny Baker and PK, they don't want to have another cycle where they've got to go get, 5-6 defensive linemen out of the portal. They'd much rather grow them in-house.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a key piece of this puzzle, in my opinion, is you want to try to develop these players. And go from there. All right, Jeff, talking one last time here about Jake Collett, young man that just committed to the University of Texas, a kicker out of Ringgold, Georgia, Heritage High School. Matt, can you put up his highlights one more time just so we can talk about this? Because there is a good question here that Kenneth Cassidy brought up. And, Jeff, you mentioned it as well. I thought we were done just taking portal kickers from now on. The thing that I mentioned is he could also be a kickoff specialist. He has that type of leg. The one thing that in Texas has just a kickoff specialist right now on campus in Will Stone, and he is set to graduate next year. So it could be that this is that replacement, not necessarily solely the field goal specialist. They'll maybe try to make that a competition at some point with this freshman and perhaps a guy for next year as well that they get out of the portal.
Yeah, and, it would be easy if there was just a clear, no doubt answer on how to handle your specialists. Because I know what I said earlier about the walk-on program. And Bert Auburn was a walk-on. And, yeah, last year was a struggle, but his 2023 season statistically is one of the best seasons the Texas kickers ever had. So, I mean, there's no foolproof, hey, we're going to go recruit him. We're going to use the walk-on program. We're going to go to the portal because, Bobby, hey, you could go to the portal. And I think we all hope, I haven't watched him at Texas State. I think Mason Shipley's going to be really good. But you go back 9 years ago now, Texas went and got Trent Domain from LSU as a grad transfer. It didn't work out very well. So there's no guarantee your portal kicker is going to be good. I just think giving yourself as much margin for error at that position as possible, because that's one that when things go sideways there, that will cost you ball games. And I know
it did last year.
Yeah, it's tough for people to get excited, Bobby, about a kicker commit. But trust me, if Jake Collett ends up helping you control field position his first year as a kickoff specialist just by eliminating their kickoff return game and helping your defense out that way, great. And then he grows into, he gradually develops into being a place kicker. Terrific. He's helping you win ball games somehow. But that's one of those positions. Deep snapper's another one for me. Like Lance St. Louis was a great pick because I haven't worried about the deep snapper at Texas, Bobby, for a while now. It's just been kind of out of sight, out of mind. But you don't want to get in a position where suddenly, oh, man, we got to go get a deep snapper because, again, special teams errors cost you ball games. Like you said, Texas probably has an SEC championship if it's not for special teams.
Well, just looking at this list, Texas has gotten 2 of its 3 specialists in this class. Trot O'Neill, the deep snapper from Plano's Prestonwood Christian, would be one. Now kicker Jake Collett out of Ringgold, Georgia's 2. We've mentioned Mikey Bakakis out of Prosper. That's going to be a dogfight for the Longhorns with Clemson. So they've gotten 2 of the 3 taken care of. If they don't get a punter out of the high school ranks, they will likely have to go to the portal, to your point there. Also, I want to mention this. As we look forward today, Jerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel are both on site at the airport right now. We will have more updates for you on all of these players that visited Texas. If you visit ontexasfootball.com, that's ontexasfootball.com. We have a recruiting thread going up that Jeff just referenced for you guys. Right now, if you want to be a first time and you want to be an OG with the rest of the On Texas Football membership, use the promo code OTFOG on TexasFootball.com. It's just $39.95 per year. That's $39.95. Regular price $59.95. So please give it a try if you get a chance. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of On Texas Football. Jeff Howe, you have anything to say before we let folks go?
Keep it on that Jamarian Carlton recruitment, because that one was kind of cold for a while, and it suddenly, it went, forget the microwave, it went right into the deep fryer. Like it's heating up right now.
Did Bobby not want to say Temple? Jamarian Carlton's from Temple. I'm sorry. My apologies for not saying it's nothing against Temple. I'll put it that way. Been through that area of Texas plenty of times. All right, that'll do it. And one last word for you, Jake Collett, from the guys here at On Texas Football. Here it is. Hook 'em, Jake.